Cool. All right. So, guys, here's the deal. Earlier this year, by the way, my name is Guy Timberlake. My friends call me Go-To Guy Timberlake. It's a call sign I picked up working with the Air Force and the Naval Aviation back in the 90s. I was doing a good job for them. They liked the way I did things. Felt I was so reliable, they started saying, I'm just going to start sending you, because I think you're my go-to guy. And the name stuck, and so hence Go-To Guy Timberlake. So all that said, earlier this year, we started a program within the American Small Business Coalition called In the KOs Corner. And what this was about, it was basically something that started from water cooler talk. You know, if you could be in the earshot of a bunch of contracting officers around a water cooler, what are they saying? You know, and how would that potentially help me as a vendor, you know, prime or sub, that type of thing. And so we started reaching out to friends of ours who work in those roles in different agencies and said, would you be willing to come and sit on a stage and just kind of air things out, talk about stuff that you like, that you don't like, the things vendors do that are awesome and amazing, or the things that they do that kind of tick you off. You know, it's all those different things. And part of this is, one, to help them really kind of get some experience listening to you guys talk about things, but more importantly, so that you understand their side and the things that go on. I can tell you unequivocally, somebody tried to convince me to go into contracting a long, long time ago. I was a young contractor, you know, working in the intel community, and they said, you know, you'd really be good in this role. And I started talking to friends of mine who were doing it. I'm like, ain't no way, not a chance. You know, it's like being a teacher. It's something you have to want to do and love to do. It's also like being a ref, okay? Because you never win. Everybody always hates you for some reason or another, okay? Am I far off there?
No.
Okay, yeah. So all that said, what we've done today is pull together a nice panel for you. I think you might have one more joining us in a second. You guys ever seen the TV show The View?
Joey's right here.
Joey? Joey, you want to come up? All right, awesome. Joey, look, there's no peer pressure, all right? You don't have to do it, okay? All right. Oh, okay. Sorry, I stand corrected. Excellent. Joey, nice to meet you, sir. Absolutely. We've got you right down there.
Can you get a mic?
Yep. Yeah, one more for us? Or a handheld?
I blame you.
That's fine.
Okay. I can give mine too. Perfect. This is what you call improvisation. Okay? So here's the deal. Today we are joined by 5 great folks who have taken the time out from their schedule to join us today to share with you things that they think about, see, engage in on a regular basis. I'm going to start with my friend Anna Ehrman. Anna is someone I've known, do I say how long? Like years. So Anna and I go back to before her time in government. It's been at least 15 years. And Anna, if you don't know her, is the phenom who represents Department of State. If you don't follow her on LinkedIn, you're missing out on a lot of great information and insights. She's got the whole GovCon nerd thing going, plus all the information she puts out, you know, on behalf of State Department, you know, reposting various opportunities, things that are happening right now in the Office of Procurement Excellence. Guys, Anna Ehrman, U-R-M-A-N, go on LinkedIn, find her, follow her. All right, if you're really nice, maybe she'll accept your invite too. All right, so that's Anna Ehrman. Next up is, Joey, let me start with you. So Joey, your last name is?
Joey.Phelps.
Excellent. So
at
Joey.
GSA.gov.
Perfect. So Joey is with the General Services Administration out of Fort Worth, Texas. It's actually my old stomping ground. I did a lot of years there supporting that customer way back when. But Joey, what exactly do you do for GSA?
I have a government position. I don't have to do anything.
Oh, awesome. Excellent. Perfect.
I'm a lady a couple of years ago. I said this yesterday in our our forum that she says, "Oh, I figured out what you do," and I said, "Please tell me." And she said, "You're the guy that connects the dots." And my actual title is Customer Service Director. And so I go into the offices of the Department of State or any of the other federal, state, local government, and I go there and I say, how's it going? Is there anything I can do to help? And I don't sell GSA solutions, okay? I help them meet their mission. So if they need something from DLA, if they need somebody from GSA, if they need a Department of Interior contract, if they need you and you don't have a government contract, well, I'm that person that's trying to connect the dots. And so then what we end up having to do is, doggone it, talk to vendors. You know, and so because we need to know who you are and what excellent things that you're doing so that when I go sit with my customer, I say, oh, I know a guy. Or I talked to this lady the other day and she's brilliant. You need to meet her. And so we connect the dots.
Awesome. So this is all part of AAS, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So does everyone know what AAS is as it relates to GSA? No? All right. Joey does. So there is an organization within the General Services Administration called Assisted Acquisition Service, and their entire livelihood is based on being available to other federal agencies to do procurements on, or acquisitions or procurements on their behalf. So we used to talk about them in the old days as a roving band of project managers and contracting officers gallivanting around the country looking for work. It's kind of a real thing. You've got all the regions have these organizations set up. So I want you to pay attention to what Joey said. They're not selling GSA solutions. This is not, when you see them, do not automatically default to GSA schedules or even the GWACs. They have access to any number of vehicles, established or unestablished. They can buy from you however they need in order to get the job done. So that was a very important thing you said. I appreciate that. Folks, we are also joined by 3 friends who traveled all the way in from New Mexico. Sandia Laboratories, you guys familiar with them? All right, so this is one of the organizations that exists under the Department of Energy. We are joined today by Jenna, Kimberly, and Ed. I'm going to let them tell you more about what they do specifically, what they do within their organizations, as soon as I walk off the stage. All right, we'll get that going. So here's how this is going to work. Anna's going to get things going for us. She's going to get the conversation going. Everyone is going to take a minute, talk to you about a specific aspect of what they do, something about their interactions with maybe customers, maybe you, and talk for a few minutes. They'll probably have a little conversation amongst themselves, and then we'll go from there. Then before it's all over, I'm going to come back up because my Sandia friends have been taunting me all week. All right, there's something going on, something special about this time of year. I think they call it fiscal year end. And so there's some things they want you to know related to the business that they have right now for the end of fiscal year. So stand by, it's going to be some great information. You guys ready to go?
Ready to go.
Awesome. I'm out of here. All right, Anna, the floor is yours.
All right. So I appreciate Guy getting everybody to come closer because the point here is to have a conversation. Sometimes I read this. Oh, thank you. All right. Sometimes I read business books on LinkedIn and sometimes they make sense, and then I post them. So I was reading a book called Making It Stick. And one of my kind of aha moments was that there's a bias. When I know what I know, I don't realize that other people out there may not know it. So for example, I've been doing government contracting for however Guy said, 15 years, 20 years. And my husband is also in government contracting, so we speak acronyms at home. And when I go out and I talk to normal businesses that have lives and employees and companies to run, you may not realize, or I may not realize, that I speak in tongues. And the point is not to make this obscure. So all of that is to say, we know what we know. This is your opportunity to get a little bit of insight of what is going on in our heads, and also ask those tough questions. You can always say no comment, obviously, but hopefully we'll be able to provide you some insight. So I'll kick this off. I've talked to the Department of Energy folks, and they have fantastic nuggets for you, but I'm just giving Joey a chance to catch up and kind of think of a story. Yeah. Joey and I, by the way, met in Oklahoma at a fantastic PTAC conference a couple of weeks ago, and he was the popular person, like all the businesses. They knew him, they hugged him, they wanted to talk to him, so ambush him afterwards. So a little bit about me in a way that I think in a way that I hope will give you some understanding. I'm going to steal a phrase from another great GovCon friend of mine, Judy Bratt, and it's a federal human. So when industry, especially folks new to government, especially new government contracting small businesses, when they think of government contracting, they kind of see this gray blobby wall and everything there is just government, and we have no idea. And when they try to talk to people, when they reach out to the small business office or the contract office or the program office, they have these vague notions of what our role is or what a job is or generally what our agency does, sometimes not even. But as you build those relationships, what Michelle was talking about earlier was what Kendra was saying, what Guy is remarking is, as you start to build those relationships, understand the human beings and what our job descriptions look like. I mean, don't go on USA Jobs, but I mean, what makes me successful? How is a contracting officer's performance rating measured? For your program office, it's not their job isn't program manager. For the purpose of a contract, they're program manager or core. But for their job, they're doing something else. And what is important to them? And how do you provide your valued service in a way that they can appreciate it, understand it, and then see your subject matter expertise? At State Department, I work with a lot of foreign service folks. We do diplomacy. That's kind of big, and they're all very, important. And nobody went into the foreign service so they could buy staplers off a schedule. I mean, they just don't. So how do you make your service resonate to them? How do you make your presence important to them? So keep that in mind, and when you're doing research and doing your outreach and BD, understand that there are real human beings on the other side of that GovCon fuzzy divide, and try to make those connections last. So I'm gonna pass this on to Ed. What's your nugget?
Okay. So I'm Ed Wilson. I've been working in contracting seemingly forever. I started as an intern at Sandia National Labs, and I went off and ran a couple of procurement departments, including one for a large utility in Washington, and then came back to Sandia, had some friends there, and what I'm doing right now is I'm buying buildings, including one that's going to house a nuclear reactor, and then all the stuff and the services and the equipment that goes along with that. Obviously, I won't do every order. I'll have folks that'll help me with that. And want to tell you a success story recently with Hub Zone business that I've been working with, and this would be related to one of those ancillary contracts, because obviously there's probably not too many nuclear physicists in this audience. If you are, raise your hand. Okay. But there's, I mean, good God, we spend about, I don't know, what is it, like million trillion or something like that?
We spent $1.3 billion.
Okay, a little bit less than I thought. But This company, you know, I know that those of you that have stopped by the booth, they say, do you have a card? Do you have a card? I don't get cards, but I've got this list of people that, you know, which top of the list is Leo here. Stand up, Leo. And he's my facilitator because when I'm looking for folks, I call up Leo or Patricia, who also works in the office, and I say, who you got? But anyway, back to the story. I don't want to monopolize this thing. So this particular business had been working with our small business department for some time, and knew the ropes, had signed up for our business opportunities website. And yes, you do have to sign up individually for every stinking lab that's on there. And had gotten to know our small business outreach department. And so when I posted my requirement, this particular business, I mean, they were there, boom. It's like, hey, can we talk? And it's like, okay, since you're the only one that responded, yeah, I think we can talk. So we did, and I explained in further detail, though I thought, you know, I have 3 pages, I had explained it in enough detail, but obviously not. And we talked through the requirements, and I could not find another candidate for this. And this particular candidate had just really done their homework and knew what the labs was about, knew who I was, knew my personal address. No, that's and it turned out to be an extremely successful contract because I solved a huge problem for my customer. That's the other half of it. If I don't have to re-engage, if all I hear are good things, wow, you are in with me, and I will be your advocate. And so it was a long process, but in the end, they were able to get a contract of significance, get a good award, learn more about us and how we work. And they not only did they wind up getting me as an advocate, they were able to get my customer as an advocate. And so that's key to sustaining the business and not having it go off of Hub to something else, you know, whatever the flavor of the day is. So, Jenna?
All right, everybody awake? You guys got your coffee? It's like, 10:30, almost 11 now. So hopefully you guys are all awake, but nice to meet everybody. My name is Jenna Davis. I am also a contracting officer here at Sandia National Labs. Over here, we call ourselves subcontracting professionals. Tomato, tomato, same thing. My educational experience was actually in economics, and right after I graduated, I went and got my MBA. During my MBA, I got offered an internship at Sandia National Labs in procurement, and I pretty much have been there ever since. So not a crazy long amount of time, but a couple of years at least. So the type of work that I typically procure is a lot of international procurements, mission critical stuff. So a lot of my stuff gets kind of like exception to the rules sometimes, but I really enjoy the work that I do because of that. And I've kind of heard that a lot of people may not think that there's a lot of hub zone opportunities in my area because it might be international work, mission critical, you have to have that Q clearance on deck, ready to go. But so far, actually, we've had a lot of opportunities still go out to the business opportunities website. Right now, my biggest opportunity is that all my engineers are getting poached. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they're taking all my high-end guys. And so we're really experiencing a huge gap. My engineers can't get these mission critical projects done in time at all. So I've been trying to procure software engineers, just senior systems engineers, just people who are at that high level. And right now, that's where I'm experiencing my biggest gap. In addition, because I do mission critical work, if you guys want to do work for the DOE, State Department, those agencies that maybe you just haven't quite been able to crack yet, the labs is a great place to start. Because we're doing the mission critical work, the DOE and State Department have a huge hand in working with our subcontractors. And in mission critical work, oh, you're working with someone from the State Department. Hey, nice to meet you. I'm from business, ABC. We've been doing work with the Sandia National Labs. We've been helping you guys with this project. That's a great way to get your foot in the door and meet people. And so I think that's really where mission critical work has, helped hub zones get known and get those larger contracts that maybe you guys are looking for. So I'm going to toss it off to Kim over here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kimberly Marion, and I've been with Sandia since 2015. I started out at Sandia as an undergraduate intern, and I've worked my way up to a subcontract manager. I have bounced around quite a bit in what I have bought. So I've bought everything from simple goods to software, and now I specialize in construction. So all you construction contractors, I'm looking at you. We are desperately needing a lot of construction contractors. I've been buying construction for the last 4 years approximately. And there's a very big boom out in Albuquerque. Our market is tapped out. So we need a lot of resources out there. I also support a lot of construction needs nationwide. So we currently have projects out in Tennessee. We have projects in Wyoming. We have future projects coming out in probably Texas. So we do construction nationwide, not just in where our facilities are mainly housed. For those of you who don't know a lot about Sandia, Sandia is the biggest DOE national lab in the country. Like I said before, we spent $1.3 billion last year, and over, I think 60% of that went to small businesses. So we have very aggressive small business goals. So we are constantly looking for new suppliers to work with in all areas. Like Jenna was just saying earlier, it's a really great foot in the door because we're like pseudo government. We're federally funded, but we don't operate like how our counterparts do on this panel. So we do operate very differently. So what we talk about to you guys today, this is our version of how we buy, which could be very different from how GSA and the State Department buy, just because we don't follow the same rules that they do. We do have a lot of the farm deer flow downs, but we don't apply them the same way, or they may not be a part of our prime contract, and so it doesn't apply. One of the big things I think you guys should also focus in on is contracting officers. We're here to help you. I think people are scared of us sometimes, but I really do feel bad when I tell a supplier, I'm sorry you did not win this competition, because I do root for every single one of you guys to win. And I'm here to help you do, whether it's pre-award or post-award, that's my job to help you along the way. And we do want new blood in Sandia, so if you are interested in working at Sandia, we definitely want you to talk to us. Thank you.
So before we go on real quick, so Kimberly, Jenna, or Ed, would you take a minute just to explain that subcontracting manager, why it's called that versus just contracting officer?
Yeah. So we are managed and owned by Honeywell. And then we have we're actually employed by Intest, which is a group of companies that have come together that owns us, and that's who pays our salaries. It's like Universities Research Association, Long & Necker. I'm blanking on the other ones. This is bad.
STP.
Sandia Technical Partners, which is I think made up of a few companies, and maybe one other one. Those are our prime contractors that we work with, and so they hold our contract with the Department of Energy, and so that's what we call our prime contract. So the way that we work is that every contract we issue to one of our suppliers or vendors is called a subcontract. And so that's why, if you look at our language, we call ourselves subcontracting managers, subcontracting professionals, whatever it is, and then we call you guys subcontractors because you are a subcontractor to our prime contract with DOE.
So Joey, one thing that the folks here need to know about you.
Thanks, Anna. I have to tell you guys, apologies to the group up here that are prepared and professional and stuff like that, you know, and then there's some guy in the back, you know, and that somebody points to it. That I apologize that I'm that guy. But one of the things that it seems like we have in common here, and Kendra, okay, wherever you are, I'm gonna steal. There you are. Okay, I think that little Oprah over there may want to start selling T-shirts that say what Anna just said a minute ago. Did you hear her say a federal human? You know, that's brilliant. That is absolutely. We're going to adopt that, I think. But to you guys, I want to just pass on this word of encouragement that there are federal humans out there. Okay, there may not be a lot, and they may not be easily found, but we are concerned for, as I was saying yesterday in our meeting, we're focused on our customer, and we want that customer to be able to meet their mission, but we are embracing that customer as another human being. They are contracting for their end users because they have that goal in mind of accomplishing that mission. And we become passionate with them along with that mission. But in order to make them successful, we have to embrace you as other human beings. And for us to do that, we build, who is up there talking about relationships? You know, that is just so important. So all of that taken together, I want that T-shirt that says federal human on that. You know, because you heard Kimberly, you heard Jenna, you heard Ed say those things. They're talking about embracing the stuff that you do in order to meet a mission. You know, there are lots of people. There's a lot of relationship in that. And I want you to just be confident that we're here. We're here for you. We really believe in that relationship is going to win. It just seems so sterile. It's like you were saying, that gray fog that you may be approaching we've got to just fight our way through this somehow or another. We're in the same situation because I'm trying to support all of my customers, and those people feel the same gray fog. Their end users are feeling that same gray fog. When you step into that gray fog with the federal government, with that state and local government, suddenly you clear that fog for them. You bring that human element, I can help you. And that's what we're all in together. I want to just encourage you, just keep fighting through that fog. Make a list of all of those federal humans out there, okay? And share that list with the other folks, okay? That's where we all are. I'm close to retirement. Actually, I should have retired a long time ago, my wife says. But I'm kind of close to that. But, you know, I think that's, I might become a federal human advocate after I retire, okay? Because this is something that's so important for us to do as a community, as a country, okay? So that's where I am, and that's what I do. I've been privileged to work with the federal government with my military. I retired from my military career in 2001. Oh my gosh, he is really old. And then I've been working with GSA for over 37 years, okay? So I've seen, oh no. That's just because they couldn't figure out how to fire me. That's what that means. So, but with all of that, you know, the thing that has been true through that entire time is that we've been those federal humans, and we find each other and we work each other through those things. So I want to just encourage you. We're in this together. We're here. We're going to work this through, okay?
Thank you. That was encouraging, right? So a good conversation is two-way, not just up here. So think through those questions. I'm going to ask my fellow panelists one question round, and then we'll turn it over. So there's a lot of conversation about what small businesses could do well. What do we expect? You've heard it before. There's YouTube videos about it. It's out there. What I want to know is, what are some things that you wish small businesses would stop doing, or some examples of, you know, maybe old best practices but are not serving the business and are not serving the government? So I'll give you a second. I'll start us off, since, you know, I asked the question. It's fair that I should answer. Don't ask questions, the answers to which are publicly available. Because, and I'm going to, you know, I am a federal human with a job, so part of my annual performance rating is how many small businesses I meet with. It's not how good of advice I give you. It's not whether or not you win a contract, because, you know, we can't follow that through, but how many companies I meet with. So if I meet with 200 companies and I spend that time telling you the general mission of the Department of State and how many bureaus we have and what our small business goals are, done my job. A ratings. Did you learn anything of value to you? Probably not. So when I tell my small businesses, and I do a lot of training and outreach, and when I tell small businesses, be prepared, it's not for me. It's so that you could ask better questions, and you could use that for your BD and capture and proposal development and winning purposes. So don't ask me stuff that's publicly available on the website. Ask me the hard questions. So that's my to-do. Free round. Who wants to tackle that?
I can
Go ahead.
talk to a little bit. I mean, the successful small businesses that I deal with usually have a niche, and what they've done is that they've done their homework, they've researched where the opportunities might be. They've talked to Leo, and then they're ready. They're ready. They're able to propose. They're able to demonstrate why they're the best option for that particular procurement. The unsuccessful ones are generalist, where they're just starting out, and so, you know, and it happens. It's like you're just starting out. You're trying to figure out, okay, where are the needs? Well, don't come to me and ask me what my needs are. I think Guy was very good at saying that, you know, man, we're in swim lanes, and I'm focused on getting a reactor built. I don't have time to be a consultant. Leo has a little bit of time, but not as much as you would think. Think about what you do well. Think about and use the publicly available information and the BOW postings that you see. You may even reply on a couple of those, and you're trying to narrow it down. It's like, okay, what did I miss on this one? How can I do better the next time? What are they really looking for? Because there'll come a time when it's like right in your swim lane, and you make that connection and you're able to convince that procurement agent that you're the best, that you are the best candidate for that job, and then yeah, you're in. And the other thing that you'll find is that it's very tough to get in. It's very tough to figure out the maze, but that's also an incredible opportunity, because then once you are getting those contracts and sustaining those contracts, it's tough for your competition. Not anyone's going to come up off the street and knock you out of your post, because we're pretty picky.
Yeah, I think I'm like a very cut to the chase kind of gal. Like, I don't have time to sit and go through all this technical specs. When I receive, or release an RFP and I receive your proposals back, I want to know, okay, what is this person charging? What are the important things here? Does Buy American Act apply? Do you have products over $10,000? Buy American Act's going to apply to us. I want you guys to point out, hey, we have this product over 10 grand, just make sure you check your BAA requirements. Pointing stuff out like that, but I'm very keep it simple. I don't want all of this extra stuff because I don't have time to read it. I'm going through 20 million contracts a day, and because it's all mission critical, I'm just sitting there trying to push out these contracts looking, okay, are they hub zone? Are they small business? Am I good to go on my end with my goals that meets my PMF performance goals, right? And so really I'm encouraging you guys to make those proposals really simple, right? Unless it requires those technical specs, which are gonna go to the engineers anyway, I wanna know, what are you guys charging? What laws might apply to this? Do you have SCA applying to you guys, that Service Contract Act, right? Making sure that the government is paying your employees that fair wage. Things like that are really what I wanna see. Some don'ts for me are definitely, don't be emailing me every day, guys. I release the RFP, give it a couple days to sit, simmer, take your time to read through it, and then you can email me, a day or two after you give that proposal. I'm always open to questions, every day, but try to wait a couple of days, get those questions clear and concise so I can just read one email instead of answering 50 different emails from the same company. Things like that really help my time out. Kim?
One of the things I think small businesses and even large businesses constantly can improve on is reading the requirements and understanding the requirements. I can't tell you how many times I receive half-baked proposals or half-baked submissions to opportunities postings and stuff, and I even go to bold and underline very heavy hitting requirements saying you have to submit it this way, and I still get half of the people miss that requirement. So I would encourage you all, when you guys are reviewing opportunities postings, whether it's for Sandia, whether it's for other government agencies, really, really take your time. Look through those requirements. When you get to the RFP stage, look through those requirements too, and make sure you're submitting a full and compliant proposal, because one of the worst things that we have to do is disqualify an offerer because they did not submit it correctly when they may be more than qualified to do the work. They just didn't focus in on the administrative work, and that's what kills us too, because we're missing out on some really great companies just because they're not taking the time to do that. So another consideration is focus in on that too, for improvements for your company, whether you have to hire a technical writer for your proposal submission or just to make sure that you're going through the boxes. I would encourage you to look at the screen and say, this is the requirement, this is my proposal, and go through it line by line and say, this is what they asked for, did I give it? This is what they asked for, am I doing that? It makes it significantly easier for contracting officers to say, yes, 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 this looks fantastic, versus oh, they're missing it over here, I need to clarify this, or something like that. And it slows down a lot of the movement with it, and I understand it takes a lot of time and money and effort on your guys' end to generate these responses and the proposals. It also takes a lot of time and money on our end to review it too and go back for those clarifications when we don't get those the submissions correct. So put that time and effort in up front because it saves significant time on the back end. And if you guys have questions about any of the requirements, like whether it's in a posting or an RFQ, RFP, ask the question too, because we get a lot of assumptions that are made, and offers who just don't even ask a question and they just make an assumption. That's also what really hurts offers during that time. There was a really great session earlier this week about like influencing like an RFQ or RFP during that acquisition process. So if you guys sat in on that, they had a really, really great session on that. And definitely keep all of that information in the back pocket. As a contracting officer who sat in on that, that was probably one of my favorite things to listen to.
Thank you. Joey, what should they stop doing?
Stop. Oh, no. You heard, I just have to keep pointing back to these people here, okay? Anna said, do your homework. Ed said, do your homework. Jen said, do your homework. And then Kimberly got over there and said, she wants to see that you've done your homework. Is that, yeah? Oh my gosh, yes. I always tell stories. Okay, Mark, where are you? There he is. I met Mark. They had Mark, and actually, I'm going to tell the other half of the story in a minute, so be ready. Anyway, they had their GSA scheduled contract for about a month when I met Mark and Michelle. Their company's name is Bubo. If you don't like that name, you're nobody. I mean, that is the coolest name on the planet, Bubo. Anyway, Learning Design Systems. Anyway, they're brilliant, they're wonderful. The very first thing that I thought about them when I met them is, these people have done their homework. Oh my gosh. You know what the next thing that I've learned about them? In the first month or month and a half that they had their contract, they already had 2 awards. That's impossible. How can you do that? Oh, they did their homework. They had done this stuff. You got to stand up. You got to be your company. If you just have a great idea for a company, well, think about that and get a job, okay? But if you're going to do the work, if you're going to get in there, dig in, and do it, yeah, these people want to see you. This is really, really great. The other thing is, I think I heard Jen saying that she's not your mom, okay? Or, I'm your mom, okay? You have to have both, okay? You have to, she doesn't want you to dance around. She wants you to just get it in there, boom, boom, boom. I'm the guy that you can call and we can whine together, okay? You need to have both of those. Val, she told me her story and instantly I gave her a hug, okay? You gotta have that, okay? But when it comes down to the business, do it, get it done, okay? Do your homework, stand up, do the job, okay? The other thing is, when Ed said this, swim lanes, right? You focus. What is your focus? You got to do this. And I heard somebody else say that again, focus, get this stuff done. But at the same time, and this is part of Mark also, first thing that he said when we saw him on Monday was, or whatever day that was that, hey, I've got a new idea. He's got focus. He's got this focus, but he's also agile. And he's thinking, based on this focus and my core competencies, I'm thinking about doing this thing. You've got to do that. You've got to be able to add to. How do you do that? Well, if we got our swim lanes and we have our disciplines, a lot of time, in order for that to happen, you're going to need to partner with somebody else. You're going to need to find people that have similar disciplines, but that are complementary to what you guys are doing, okay? Do not be afraid to partner with people. In our briefing, we talked about contract teaming arrangements, we talked about joint ventures, we talked about all these other kind of partnerships. If you're not a GSA schedule vendor, or if you're not a company that has ever done government work before, I would highly recommend partner with somebody and get in it, and that'll be great. But after you're up on your feet, you're standing, you're doing your work and everything, continue to do that. I told you about my friend that's down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, joint ventures. She has $1.2 billion of work that they've gotten through joint ventures. That's real money, folks. That's what the guy said, $1 million here, $1 million there. Pretty soon it adds up to real money. So this is great. Don't be afraid to partner. But those are my things. Do your homework. Do your work. And then be agile, okay? And you can do that through partnering. Okay?
So who's got questions right now? I've got a microphone, and I know how to use it. Okay, so you have one too? Yeah.
Good morning. When you're teaming up, just curious to know what type of paperwork or is there any legal instruments needed to, well, obviously there's an agreement needed. Is there any specific agreements that are out there for the hub zone type agreements? Hub zone partnerships?
I think it depends on it depends. This is our favorite phrase.
Yeah.
Another T-shirt, right?
Yes.
It depends on the type of teaming agreement. If it's a CTA, then that has paperwork. If it's a joint venture, then follow the joint venture regulations based on the program that you're in, whether it's SBA, NASA, DOD. I don't know if DOE, do you guys
DOE,
have a,
right.
yeah, do you have a special joint venture program? I'm sorry, mentor protege program for Department
Got
of
a
Energy?
mentor protege program.
Yeah, we have a mentor protege program, but beyond that, that's pretty much how we're, on our side at least, that's how we're seeing our partnerships.
Yeah, I would also say it really just depends on the specific opportunity or that project, because you may be able to work like an informal teaming agreement versus another project may require it to be an SBA approved teaming arrangement. So just make sure you're aware of that and you follow those, because that could also disqualify you if you're not focusing in on that right requirement, because SBA approved versus informal is very different.
A teaming agreement is an agreement between two private entities to do whatever it is. It doesn't have to be government contracts. The biggest consideration there, and it's a pre-award agreement, the biggest consideration is that you have a fair agreement on your hands that gives you real opportunity and protects your interests, whether it's intellectual property, your employees, any other kind of compensation that's important to you. Some of them talk about work share as well, so negotiate for that if you're able to. Does that get there? Is that
Yes, but it's just, is there like a template that we could follow or anything like that out there?
Yes, you could Google and find a template. Is that going to serve you?
Yeah, let me stop for one of that. Don't Google it. Okay. So Anna, the attorney, don't pull down a document that was written for another company in their interest, possibly for another domain. It won't serve you well. So you will want to get either a contracts manager or an attorney to craft one for your company, specific to you. And on that question, there's not a socioeconomic specific type of teaming agreement. So if you're looking at just a teaming agreement outside of a joint venture or mentor protege, what you're going to want to look at is teaming agreement based on the laws of the state that your business is located in. And what Anna said is spot on. It's pre-award. So once the work is won, then whoever the prime is going to should issue a subcontract. That's a legal document also. And again, prescribed based on the laws in your state and also the flow down provisions coming from the contract issued by the U.S. government as well.
And another thing about that, as Anna said, a lot of times that agreement is an informal agreement, and the danger of pulling down that template from Google or whatever is that you may think that you're bound by what you see on that template, and you always want to protect your business, your interests, and so do not be worried about changing anything in that. The template is just what somebody threw up in the air and got on Google. Okay, but you want to make certain that you're always protecting your business interests.
And so this is, I'm taking off my Govy hat. So, Guy, you outed me as an attorney. I would say informally, ask an industry friend, not somebody that you're in business with, but if you trust another company, ask them for some of their templates. Because I know working with attorneys is scary and expensive, let's face it. So if you trust another entity and you want to use it as a template, knowing that things may change, and with the understanding that you are signing your money away on it, that may do you okay in the interim, but ultimately you want to make sure that it protects your company.
Other questions?
Hello, my name is Joe Garcia. I'm president of J.I. Garcia Construction. And I don't really have a question. You guys wanted some collaboration, so put on your safety belts because this is going to be some collaboration. Number one is, obviously, I heard comments made about how you receive responses to solicitations, proposals, and they're incomplete, they're done incorrectly. That's actually music to my ears because that's usually my competition, and I'm okay with that because I can't tell you how many times I run into a situation where, and this happened fairly recently, and it was a it was a small business set aside. And it was actually a hard bid. So they actually had a bid opening, which is very unusual anymore these days in the federal government. And of the 4 respondents, 2 of the proposals were literally just thrown out right then and there. And there was 2 legitimate, and we were one of them, and we were actually a low bidder. So those kind of things, I don't, and I don't think most of us have a problem. That's obviously you guys do. And that's yours to bear, and I apologize for that, I guess. But the other issue that I wanted to bring up is, we hear you loud and clear. Do your homework, do your homework, do your homework. And we get that over here. And I think most everybody in this room probably does a very good job of that. When I came today and I was coming to my matchmaking for the people that I absolutely wanted to be on their facility, I usually brought 3 or 4 projects that were from their forecast so that we could have an intelligent conversation about opportunities. The challenge that I find is that a lot of agencies do not update their forecasts. They do not have complete forecasts. So it makes it very difficult for small businesses to have an intelligent conversation when you're meeting with somebody because they have all the knowledge. We have a limited supply of it as far as future opportunities. And when it comes to this, I think that, and I don't want to talk down by any stretch of imagination, but I think that what needs to be understood is that we're small business. We have limited resources. We have to rely on these forecasts so that we can plan these projects out way in advance so we can be prepared for them when they come so we can seize the opportunity. It's not like we can't be as reactive, I guess, as large businesses might be able to, and I perceive they might be able to, because they have a substantial amount of resources to throw to something we don't. And so I'm just kind of throwing it out there that these forecasts are extremely important to us on this side of the table because, like I said, it helps us with our pre-planning so that we can be responsive and we can respond to as many of these opportunities as possible. Thank you.
Joe, I have a question for you, sir.
Yes.
what would you consider a complete forecast? What are the elements that are important to you?
Don't want to talk down to it, but about an agency.
Sure.
So I won't name the agency, but there are some agencies that promise us forecast. We actually sit down at these type of events and we tell them that we would like to have a forecast, and that they give us the name and the phone number of the person to contact in their agency for this forecast. And it took us probably 4 months, and I can't tell you how many emails and phone calls to this department to try to get a forecast. And their initial answer was, well, we typically don't put one together. Well, then my response was, well, it would be a lot easier for us to basically respond to your needs if we knew what needs were coming up.
So this is not a cabinet level agency.
No, I find even in the DOD that they're supposed to have updated forecasts theoretically by policy within a certain amount of time limit after the fiscal year end. That seldom ever happens. Seldom ever happens. And so you potentially miss 1 or 2 opportunities that you could have responded to because, like I said, limited resources. We can't come to these type of conferences every day, every week, every month. It makes it tough. We have to run our businesses. And so if we really do rely on the information, doing the research on the internet to try to find the opportunities so that we can respond.
So I'm going to share a story real quick. This is relevant. So Joe, I'm a former contractor, bunch of years in the business. And one of the agencies I used to support, and this just happened recently, in the intel community, of all places, had a forecast, defense agency, and would have information out there. It echoed what you're telling me right now. Companies are basically making plans for pursuits based on the information they're getting. And it was inaccurate. In some cases, requirements had long been purchased, and they were still showing up in the forecast. And where I'm going with this is what you're doing right now is exactly what needs to happen, but I'll tell you, don't wait for a conference to do it. A group of the companies got together and went and talked to the director of small business at the agency and basically said exactly what you're saying to them. And the agency literally called a full stop, put together a team, looked into what was going on, and within about 4 months had updated their information. It was more relevant. They would, if they didn't have an actual date, they wouldn't put a date. If they had a date, a hard line for it, they were pretty diligent in trying to stay to that. Also, to your point, limited resources, only can do certain things. Now I'm going to flip it around on you just a little bit. Large companies are not reactive, okay? Just going to put that out there. They are counting on their ability to be able to look 10 years downrange. All right, so they're not, if something pops up tomorrow and it wasn't already on their radar with a customer they already knew, you already have the advantage because you are far more agile to be able to respond and react to that than they are. So I'll turn that around for a second, but the whole resource thing, as far as small businesses, I worked only for small businesses my entire career. So I know where you are with that, I understand it. That comes into process. It's economies of scale, it's all these different things. Anna and I are gonna do a dog and pony show at some point where we get up and talk about what doing your homework actually means. Because there is so much more information available today. When I started doing this as a contractor, well, DHS didn't exist, NAICS codes didn't exist, and Al Gore had not turned on the internet yet, okay? And so the amount of information that's available now, strategic plans, agency performance goals, you start digging down into all the different elements of information that spells out the names of programs, stakeholders, budgets, and so forth, and that's where you actually get yourself a little bit more scale, the ability to do these things. So I'd love to talk to you sometime also about that as well, but guys, I wanted to throw that out there.
Hey, can I interject before we get Mr. Robert here? What you're saying about the forecast, I just want to, for just truth in advertising, when the government puts out really bad solicitations, and you guys are listening to me, and thank you very kindly for doing that, about doing your homework and everything, and you look at that next solicitation and you say, somebody hasn't done their homework. Oh my gosh, that happens a million times. I just want to assure you that our team over here with GSA, myself, we do these same things, except for we have all the federal humans in this room and all those contracting officers, and guess what we're telling them? Do your homework, do your work. Don't put out bad solicitations. If you want a terrible bid, look at the solicitation. It's probably because it was awful, okay? And so we're telling them the same thing. So I was there too, staying up 2 nights in a row, putting together my bid, and you go do everything, and then you go turn it in, and as you get there, you see a little note on the door saying that requirement has been canceled. Great. So I know exactly what you're going through, but he is right. Your small business is agile. That big business can't do what you can do.
Another aspect where the forecast and the homework comes in is if you know that customer, you, like the large businesses, are not relying on that forecast, which is static, to get a sense of what their projects will be. You're talking to them about their needs. You're looking at their budgets ahead of time. You're looking at their existing contracts and when they expire and who those vendors are and what those solicitations are like. Forecasts change. I mean, when the State Department forecast FY21 came out, we didn't know that the Kabul embassy would be gone. When the forecast 22 came out, we didn't know that Russia would decide to go west. So priorities change as well, and the quality of agency forecasts, speaking on behalf of one in particular, are in need of improvement, and we're working on that. But don't use that as your only indication of what to expect from that department.
Yeah, it's just a planning tool for us.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the accuracy is extremely important for us. As accurate as can be, I understand that things change. Things change in our organizations, as well.
Yeah.
And so, but I just wanted to kind of emphasize the
Yeah.
importance of information that we receive from the government, because a lot of us do our homework. It's just that we're relying on the accuracy of
Right.
that information, not just the forecast, but like what Joe mentioned, obviously the accuracy of solicitations, and then understanding the solicitations. I received one that we've been tracking forever, and it finally came to pre-solicitation, so now the process is starting, and I mean, literally within the first paragraph of the solicitation, it's talking that we have to be CMMC certified, okay? And I'm going, well, wait a second. Okay, what are we certifying to? Because the regulations aren't finalized yet. So there goes an RFI before they even, before the solicitation pulls down from the ink printing, there's going to go an RFI because CMMC, how are you going to comply with that? So, I mean, it's that kind of stuff that we really do rely on the accuracy on the government side to help us plan and prepare on the private side.
Well, there's an opportunity there. If you're being asked to do something that is impossible, if there's no CMMC certification and you're being asked for that, that's something to take back to the contracting officer, to the OSDBU office, and to the department's competition advocate, because that is unduly restrictive to competition. There are some actual things that can be done to prevent bad RFPs from being foisted on industry.
Yeah, I've seen those before. Sometimes I'm not even aware of it, and it's like I send it out, and it's like, seriously? I go to my engineer, and it's like, seriously? You didn't know this, and you put this out? But interesting point. In fact, I just made a mental note to resolve myself to answer Leo's request for a forecast, maybe within 5 days next time. Maybe. I think with our own lab, we do okay-ish on the larger procurements. And I'm talking about construction because that's my swim lane right now. And not so good on the small ones because Kim and I have been sneaking away all week and trying to handle fires because all of a sudden the last 3 months it's like, oh, we got money, hey, we got to go spend it right now. It's like, that's not forecasting. I'm dealing with one now that's just a total cluster bomb. There you go. That's a good way to put it.
I heard Clint Eastwood come out for a second.
Yeah. So, yeah, when I was in basic training, we called it something different. That's where, you breach a door and everybody falls down. But anyway, it's, yeah, boy, the AE really phoned this one in, and I'm on the 20th RFI already, and we'll get it through, but it's ugly. So, yeah, but so with ours, it's like we're doing okay-ish on the large ones because everyone's tracking them. And what I'm seeing is that the smaller ones, a couple million and below, it's like whenever funding gets through, everyone just gets a hair fire and just tries to push it out as quickly as possible. And so, and that's probably the ones that are like most beneficial to you, that you see that you have the least amount of forecast for. And so that's something that I think we're going to have to go away and talk about in our group.
Yeah, to Ed's point as well with that forecast, and I think because we're just pushing out these RFPs all of the time and very quickly, calling us out and saying it's unduly restrictive, Mr. Garcia, would really help us out as well. I'm like, we are humans, right? We make those mistakes and we want to work with you guys. Honestly, working with hub zones and small businesses makes our job easier because we don't have to go through all these hoops of justifying why we're working with a large business, right? We want to work with the small businesses and we want to work with you guys. So if you call us out, we're not going to be offended. We're going to look into it and be like, oh yeah, he's right. I'm pushing out hundreds of these all the time, and it's they get messy sometimes. And so again, with that, do your homework, right? Well, we do our homework. Great. Well, then call us out if you guys see something incorrectly. We're not perfect, and we're here to work with small businesses. So that's important, to know on our side. With my stuff, we can't forecast for obvious mission critical reasons, but I know construction, they have been working on it, and we hope to improve that shortly then.
Yep. Go ahead.
Marshall Robert with Robert Consulting. One of the things I've heard a couple of times is do your homework, make it easy, make it quick. For your standpoint, for us to understand your concerns, I do a lot of Brooks Act work, so there is, I call the silver platter RFQ, is like all of the things that you might ever want to do at any given time, which means our proposals are not easy to read. They are not simple. They are not addressing your particular needs. Are there any given techniques that you would propose for us to do to sort through? You mentioned maybe mapping, but when you have 14 irrelevant items that we're mapping, we're hiding the good stuff. Is there things that you would prefer how we organize our documents to make your life easier, shorter, and more complete?
I would say to mirror the RFQ, RFP as much as possible. How, like the way that it's listed, the way it's formatted, something like that, because that way when we're going through it, and it is complicated to put it together and to understand it. I think mapping it or like following the format as closely as possible would be the best option. The other thing too is you can always ask that question because every opportunity is going to be slightly different. And so what worked really well for one may not work well for something else. And so it could jog that in the contracting officer's mind saying, hey, like this is right. Like what if I put together this form for them to fill out instead, and then they issue that through like an addendum or something. So maybe something like that.
I would say that's a pretty common heuristic, right? Is always just follow the RFP. You know, Section A has these things, go with that. You can always ask your contracting officer, how would you like this proposed? You know, I expect a product RFP to come back to me very different than a service RFP. Things like that. Bolding, again, for my work, I'm looking at your pricing, right? That's the first thing. Okay, what is this person charging? Because I have to compare all of these bids with their pricing, right? You know, many of them are all hub zones, so you guys are competing amongst yourselves. And so highlighting those important things like, okay, remember the RFP specifically asking me to fill in this blank. Okay, I'm going to go Section A, and I'm going to bold my answer here. So that way when they're just flipping through it, they go, okay, you know, I'm very quick looking through these types of things. But yeah, I would say rule of thumb is always just follow that RFP, or if you don't know, just ask your contracting officer.
So I received a ES&H proposal one time, which had all sorts of technical people on it, and with very extreme requirements in terms of education and background.
What's ESNA?
Define ESNA.
Oh, it's it's environmental, safe, and health. And and the best one had a summary. Started with a summary because I'm looking at this book, and so it started with a summary. We meet qualification A because of this and this, and for more information, see page 137 of the proposal. And that was a very easy one to go through because you don't want someone like me to be ripping through, 5 different proposals and miss something. And if it says right here that you meet it, and for some reason I can't find it later on in that, I'll give you a call. But if it's like buried in the proposal and I can't find it, I'm not going to call you.
Go right ahead.
Two pieces of advice or recommendations here. One is stole it from a friend who couldn't be here because he has COVID. So it's looking at the proposal and doing word searches for everything that says must and shall, and making sure that that is reflected somewhere. And it's, Control F, etc. The other thing from borrowing from this industry and government really need to, talk together more, because I'm borrowing things from consultants right now. And one of them, Lisa Mund at The Pulse, said that a proposal is not a novel. So don't try to make it pretty, right? And what I'll tell you is it's not a novel, it's more like following a recipe to something complicated. One of the things, like one of my favorite things to make is a marjolaine, which is like a dessert with meringue stuff in it. And the instructions do not make sense because you're doing things kind of out of order. But at the end, it comes together somehow, and it looks good if you do it right. 50-50 on that. So follow the instructions because it makes sense. Because sometimes you have one contracting officer reviewing it. Sometimes it's different teams that rip it apart and parse out and make their decisions accordingly. If that team doesn't have your answer in the volume and in the place where they expected it, they will either fail you on it or have to go looking, which makes them frustrated and angry, and you don't want that either.
Good morning. My name is Joan Mickle. My company is Profile Partners, and we work with agency leaders to create successful, reimbursable organizations. My question is really about debriefings, and I'm wondering, I like to learn from my mistakes. When do you recommend that we request a debriefing when we don't win a contract?
Wrong question. Well, I'm sorry, that's horrible. Don't assume that you only get a debriefing if you don't win a contract. Get a debriefing every time, or ask for it every time, whether you win or not, because it gives you an opportunity to learn. What are some specific debrief recommendations?
Yeah, I would ask for it on any competition. Agree, whether you win or you lose. When we run like a low price competition, there really isn't much to debrief on. As long as you meet the mandatories or the minimum specs, it really just comes down, you just weren't the low bidder. So that's pretty much all we can disclose to you. But if we're doing a best value or something like that, it's very, very important to get that knowledge, whether you win or you lose.
Yeah, now some parts of the FAR don't actually offer debriefs. So FAR 13, for example, debriefs aren't part of that for simplified acquisitions.
Okay.
Yeah, and the simplified acquisitions, you know, that's optional, and it's rarely done. And so, but if you have a question about that, you know, afterwards, you know, it's hard to get that contracting officer. They've already checked the block. They're gone to the next thing. Okay, that's where my office would come in. Joey.Phelps at gsa.gov. Have I said that before? I don't know. Anyway, if you do answer a solicitation like that, our network of customer service directors, we can help sometimes. Write to me, email me, and I'll tell you some friendly people that might be able to help you with that. Because if it was a really big, but it was still under FAR Part A, well then they don't really have to debrief you. But if you ask the right questions, and especially if you get us involved, we might be able to get you at least some level of debrief in that. But that's not really required by the acquisition regulations.
Any recommendations about good questions to ask in a debrief?
I can tell you what not to ask. We can't ever disclose pricing. And I don't know if you guys can in your debriefs or not, but Sandia, we never can disclose what the winning price was. So, and a lot of people do try to ask for that. They even try to get a percentage, and we don't even give that. We just say you were high, you were low, but you weren't the lowest, something like that. I don't know if Ed or Jenna have any other.
So we're very careful with the winning bidders information, which is why pricing is difficult. In my group, as long as it was a firm fixed price competition with over 3 respondents, we'll send out your comparison. We'll send out the average comparison against the AE estimate, and then the average pricing, so that you can get some information out of the bid and see where you were as compared against the average. But one of the things I think Guy pointed out, you know, is that we tend to be referees and everybody hates us. We've also got like a department of 20 people telling us what we can't do. Not what we can do, but what we can't do. And so we tend to be very reserved about the information that we give out. You have to figure out what you really might have tripped you up in the competition, and ask that question, because sometimes, we can pursue that and make sure that we can release that information, and then give you a response, because pricing's a no-no. And if it's best value, where we're comparing, where we've got anything in there that might be subjectively evaluated, then it's like we can tell you whether you're high or low or medium, and that's about it.
Yeah, I personally in my work, I don't do debriefs, quite frankly. I can maybe tell you, high, low, but that's the only information that we can really give out. So I don't know, on my end at least, unfortunately, we can't. It's difficult to do that debrief. I would say I've had, businesses call me up and say, can we just like have a meeting of, what could we do better in our RFP? Was there something that was missing? Is there something that would make your life easier so when we submit next time? And what other opportunities might be available for us next time? Those are the questions that I can answer. So for my work, I personally we can't do debriefs really at all. It's not going to be helpful to either party. It's going to be a waste of time. So setting up that meeting of what can I do better to win this award next time, and I can look through your RFP and say, next time, bold this, or I didn't see this in your proposal, and here, I noticed that your NAICS code is X, Y, and Z. Here's the things that might be coming down the bow. That's what I can help with, but that's about it.
Can I add one more thing? It just jogged something in my mind. So for us, for best values, we do have like a set of guidelines that we offer up information, and so we will no matter what, we will tell you opportunities for improvement within your proposal, go through each section or each question that you do need to improve on. We also will tell you what your biggest strengths were within your proposal, so okay, I did really good on this one, I'm going to keep doing that. So we do offer that up front with you guys, and then we do allow you guys to ask questions too, and so those questions can vary depending on what those specifics are, but you guys will always have that information provided from Sandia if you get a debrief.
And we got another question over here, but I'll mention one thing for everyone too. When you think about debriefs, think about them in the context of marketing. It's a touch point. It's an opportunity to get in front of the customer, buyer or customer, and have an exchange.
Hello, I'm Emily Marks. I'm with Burgoon Company. We supply safety supplies and industrial supplies, just for those who don't know who we are. But my question is, for contracting officers in general, what makes a successful rock star contracting officer? And then it's kind of twofold. And then what can small businesses do to help you guys continue that success rock star position?
Anna, do you want to start or Ted?
Sure, I'll start. Okay, I mean, I've managed procurement departments, both in private industry and utilities, and now here I am at Sandia again, my own little swim lane. The rocks, to me, the rock star procurement officer is going to be someone who solves problems for their customer. They come up, they present a problem. I had one where we were buying electric vehicles, and there's only like 2 domestic manufacturers, and we were buying it off the GSA schedule, and it just wasn't working out because we couldn't get any service. We were getting very poor service, and so we figured out a way to go ahead and combine that vehicle purchase along with the service component with a local WASB. There you go, there's a plug for small businesses and what you can do. We took it away from the large and the GSA schedule, and we awarded it to the WASB, and oh my God, it was such a difference. That really helped me, and it's what I see in other buyers who are very successful. And what they do is that they listen, they figure it out. Okay, this is the these are the bounds of the problem. This is the problem that I need to solve with this next procurement.
Yeah, I'm glad that Ed went first, because that was a really great point, right? Problem solving. We're always looking to solve problems for our customers. I think what makes that rock star subcontracting manager or contracting officer is being able to help solving that problem. Your guys' role is already the fact that you guys are a registered HubZone small business. That automatically makes our lives a lot easier. But I would say that because we are looking at so many proposals all the time, again, we have to be very, high performing, looking at tons of proposals, things like that. make sure you guys know what applies to you guys. SCA, the Service Contract Act, Buy American Act, things like that really make a difference and help us, remind like, oh yeah, that gets, me flowing and thinking about these things. Well, wait, did somebody else, did this other proposer look at their BAA Act? Did they mention anything about that? And so now I'm looking at all these proposals and I'm only seeing who's missing it, right? So things like that. Kim?
So, of course, helping our customers figure out their problems is important. But I think another big aspect to what makes a good contracting officer is how to solve your problems. I had a supplier who has been having difficulty hiring people on because they applied SCA wrong. Or like there was issues in a schedule requirement that they didn't quite understand, so they weren't meeting that. And so they were struggling for months before they came to me. And I'm like, well, why didn't you come to me sooner? And they're like, well, I didn't know I could. I'm like, but that is our job, to help you guys solve problems, not just our mission needs. And so anything that is preventing you from being successful on your contract, whether it's for invoicing or billing or performance requirements, we're your first gate to the door for anything like that. So don't be shy to come up to us and do that. And that's like post-award, but it's also like pre-award. And we've talked about this before, but if a requirement seems like too burdensome for you, like that's something that we should also be aware of too. Because I've also changed requirements because contractors have come to me and said, this is too restrictive. So we're here to help internally and externally.
What are some good contracting officers' qualities of the folks that you work with from your perspective?
Kimberly nailed it. That having that communication, both directions. I'm going to be. She's not as old as me, okay, and I know that some of you've grown up with that contracting officer, and they just kind of like have a red sign on their door. You don't talk to them. They just, that's kind of just a barrier. Well, that's then, okay? That's not now. This is now. And these people are going to be successful because they've realized I can't do this without having that dialogue. And so this is the new generation, and this is great. This is brilliant. And this is what's going to make you guys successful. When you have that relationship with that contracting officer and you can say exactly what you said, well, how can I provide a better proposal next time? Or I'm having trouble doing this, meeting my responsibilities of the one that I won, and so how can we do this? She said she changed the requirement. Oh my gosh, that they need this. This is why we put RFIs out, and Steve can tell you, we put RFIs out and our return is about 2%. We need that dialogue. That's why we sent the RFI out, is so that we can have that communication, have that dialogue. And so this is brilliant. This is where we are now. These are federal humans. So
they've all answered the hard part of the question. I'm going to tackle the easy part. How can you help those rock stars? Simple block and tackling kind of advice. Make your email subject line something that we know what to do. Right? We don't like surprises. Right? We are rule-bound, risk-averse humans. So get to the point. What is it that you're asking? We like an acronym at State Department called BLUF, bottom line up front. So what is it that you want? And then tell us the story. That enables us to get you an answer faster, which is what you want, which is what makes us more efficient and ultimately better at the customer service, both to industry and internally.
One more question?
Hi, I'm Oksana with ATDP. We do all things plastics. Please reach us out. Anna, you spoke about a performance review and you individually get performance ratings. Can you kind of give us an insight of what some of those categories are and how we could help you meet those?
So go.
Yeah.
So the simple way is go to usajobs.com and look at .gov and look at the job postings, and it tells you in very exhaustive detail. You're familiar with contracting, you know, or government regs, what the job requirements are. So that'll give you an indicator of what it is that I'm expected to do. But for me, I think it's a public record, but I don't mind
It is.
anyway. It's how many businesses I meet with, how many internal procurement reviews I assist with, teamworks are working within the department and all the other, not all the other, the bureaus and the contracting officers, and doing training both internally to our acquisition workforce as well as to industry.
Jenna, how about you?
Yeah, ours are similar but a little bit different. Mostly we just get, for the small business sector, they want to know not only how many small businesses are we awarding contracts to, but what particular zones, right? Hub zone, woman owned, that's really what they're looking for. It's pretty simple for our businesses on our side. We have goals that we're expected to meet every year.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We have a 1 through 9, 1 through 10. I don't even
block
know. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because, essentially, we've got a forced ranking system. So that means most of us will get midpoint, you know, whether we absolutely kill it and place all our contracts and everyone's happy with us, or if we're just coasting. So, what really helps us is if you provide solutions so that we can get through the workload. Jenna gave you a big hint in one of her previous answers, where it's like, if we can get a hub zone signed up and qualify them, and we know it's not going to boomerang on us and just cause a whole bunch of back-end work, all of a sudden we go from the slow lane of going through each and every stinking approval step to the fast lane. And we can get that project through, satisfy our customer, and go on to the next project. That's what really helps us.
So guys, what do you think? Good use of your time?
All right. Any other questions?
Joey, Anna, Ed, Jenna, and Kimberly, thank you very much for taking time out to join us, one at the conference, but also for letting me rope you into this, especially at the last second. But this was fantastic, and I think these are exactly the kinds of exchanges that seem to have gone the way of the dodo in contracting from the early days. You know, when I was doing this, Joe and I are almost the same age. So way back when, and I think that conversation is critical on the side of industry. I'm going to tell you what, you know, some of the questions that you were asking, some of the things you heard from them today. There was never a red sign on the door of the KOs I worked with. It was an ongoing conversation. It was them helping me helping them with regards to the things that matter to them. You know, if Jenna has, you know, a child that aspires to go into the senior NCO class, you know, of the military, I call up my buddies that are the gunny sergeants and everyone else and say, hey, look, what path does he or she take? And it's a personal relationship that you're investing in, and that's the federal human piece that you keep hearing up here. So don't look at it as if somebody on the other side is just in a box doing a job, doesn't care about anything, it's not their money. That's a fallacy. I have never met anyone in government that didn't honestly care about what they were doing, But I will also say this. I meet a lot of great men and women like you running companies who are coming here not just to sell stuff, not just to get a, you know, a retirement check or whatever it is. You're actually here for the mission. I serve on, you know, boards in support of Michelle and the Hub Zone Council. I serve on boards for veterans and others. And there are men and women, Joey, Ed, who've done service, who come back, start a company, and because they know how to get the job done. So I think if everyone looks at this from the standpoint of getting the things done that supports our nation, or it's not politics, it's not bureaucracy, it's doing things to the best of our ability on both sides that allows this to work. And if we get there and continue to have these kinds of discussions, we're going to all be better for it. So thank all of you for coming out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Before you leave,
Yep.
can you get up there on the ground?
Sure.